baseball PA announcer. And Emily, do you have questions to start?
I do. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Emily, how you doing?
I'm good, honey. For you, I know it's got to be bittersweet to be doing it in this setting. And I know everybody misses the fans, but you've got to be at the top of that list.
Yeah, it's just, and again, it gets back to that thing, like I said earlier in the year when we found out we were going to have fake crowd noise, that it's just the hand that we've been dealt. And it would really be much better for me tomorrow night if we had 40,000 people in the ballpark. But I understand and I accept it. I don't like it, but I accept it.
But when game one, would you have ever imagined you'd get to this number?
No, I didn't think. I didn't even think about things like that. I had made every game in Nashville. I did. I never missed at the Grand Ole Opry. I've been very lucky in my life, but I never would have thought I would have worked 3,000 consecutive games.
What has it meant for you also, too? It's not like you're just the PA announcer. I mean, you've taken on a big role within this organization to have kind of carved out this niche for yourself within this organization, and how much pride you take in that.
I take a lot because I knew when I mean, it was kind of no secret of what I was going to be doing when I came here in 1983, that I was Larry Schmidt's PA announcer in Nashville, and what I was going to be mainly doing. But I also understood that I'd been around long enough that you're not going to make a living being just a PA announcer, that I was going to have to do other things. So, Larry got me involved right away in selling programs and promotions and things like that, and kind of learned the baseball business from Larry and from others that I worked with here, and it just kind of evolved into what it was. And due to my background, things I did in Nashville, when they added the video board in 1984, it was kind of a natural thing for me to just take over the production of the video board, of what production there was back in those days. But yeah, it's just kind of evolved into that, and I'm very proud of that.
Chuck, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Emily. Thank you.
Questions, please, DR.
Chuck, I think even more proud of 3,000 consecutive games is, as far as I know, have you ever had an open mic mistake or an open mic paw? I can't remember if you have or not. I don't.
Not an open mic mistake, because I started in radio when I was 15, and I was back in those days. They made it clear that you should always know that microphone is on, whether it's on or not. I didn't have those type of mistakes, but I did give away dinner for two at Mrs. Baird's Bread, which to me in a lot of ways was much more embarrassing, because I'm standing there or sitting there listening to myself give away dinner for two at Mrs. Baird's or something like that. But I never had an open mic problem, other than, one time I introduced Pete Incaviglia as he was batting, because I was looking around for a broadcast cartridge to play a piece of music, and I didn't realize, I listened to the crack of the bat, and Inky had fouled the ball off, so I introduced Juan Gonzalez, and Inky still had a few pitches left.
All right, now tell the truth. 27 years later, Terry Matthews, did you really forget to announce him, or were you told not to announce him? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I forgot. That was my fault. I would never do that. I mean, nobody's ever told me. I've been very lucky, TR. I've had very few people tell me what to do here. I mean, they make suggestions. They don't tell me to do or not to do something. But that was my mistake.
The only time I remember you having going off script was that night when Kevin Kennedy was getting his tail beat and he came off the mound and you played Fly Me to the Moon. Did you ever have many of those ad-lib moments?
The other one that I can think of was when Jared Weaver, we knocked Jared Weaver out of the game, and we played Hit the Road Jack, and as he was coming off the field, he was singing Hit the Road Jack. And but the Kevin Kennedy moment was a special one, and Kevin, after the game, he called me down to the visiting clubhouse, and he thought it was funny, and anytime I see him or anytime I see him in the ballpark, we try to play Fly Me to the Moon.
Other questions? Sam?
Now, are you going to be in PA for the playoffs at all?
Yes, sir. I had offered to Major League Baseball, and I kind of put myself in that situation. If my team was in the playoffs and I couldn't be there, I thought, well, what could you do? And I offered MLB that if the teams would send us recordings of their PA announcers bringing people up to bat, that we would play those during the NLCS, Division Series, World Series. But what they've changed their minds, and the team, the entertainment people with the other teams felt like that it might not sound right if they're in a rally situation, that there might not be as much excitement if it was just a generic introduction. So they've decided to, I'll be doing all the announcing for those playoff games.
Your thoughts on that? Is that, I mean, obviously you've done it before, but is it kind of cool? Is it going to be kind of weird, you think?
It'll be a little bit weird. Number one, I wish my team was in there. I wished I was going to announce the Rangers. But, Sam, I've got to look at it from I'm representing the Texas Rangers, and I'm going to do all we can to make sure we take care of the World Series and the NLCS and the Division Series. I know how important that is to everybody. So I'll do all I can, that if a Dodger's coming up to bat with 2 men on and they're trying to score a run, that I'll introduce them as if it was a Ranger coming up to bat.
And the last thing, I know it's a little random, but I remember when we talked back before the season started, and you had a ton of bobbleheads and other promotions. You were hoping some fans would be able to take off your hands this year, but what's going to happen with those? What are you guys doing with them?
Well, about right now, I know the accounting department wishes they would take those off our hands right now, because we're having to pay to have all of those things stored in storage places around the area. We've never had that situation before, but what we're going to do, we're going to roll those over to 2021, and they'll be part of our promotion schedule next year.
Awesome. Thanks. Congratulations, Chuck.
Thank you.
Other questions? Chris?
This is going to sound like a silly question, but 3,000 consecutive games, how have you either avoided getting sick or just fought through it and just been able to announce games?
I've not had very many games where I've had to fight through it. It's not a silly question. Chris, I've just been lucky. My parents were pretty much the same way. My dad got up and went to work every day and sold meat on a route, and he didn't miss very many days. And for me, it's not where I'm having to work 30 or 40 consecutive days in a row. I mean, the team leaves town, and on the weekends when the team's out of town, I'm at home. I guess I reserve those times to get sick. But even when the team was gone and the team was here, I still had to come in early in the morning and go into the office. I just haven't had those many situations where I couldn't fight through it. I had 2 real close calls for games, but other than that, I've been very lucky.
Thanks a lot, Chuck. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kevin Grant?
Chuck, I feel like not the closest call, but maybe the hardest season you ever had was probably the year you were battling with the back injury. What year was that again?
That was let's see, probably 2013.
And you basically were dealing with not much feeling in your hands at that point in time, right?
Yeah, I didn't have much feeling. I didn't have much feeling in my hands or my feet, and when I talked to Dr. Drew Dossett, did my surgery. When I first went to see him, he told me I had there were 2 things that might happen. One, he says you could lose your voice. Number 2, you may have to miss a game. So when we were getting ready to go into surgery, I looked up to Dr. Dawson. I said, "Hey, look, I'm not losing my voice, and number two, I'm not missing a game." And so about a week later, I was back in the booth. Had on a neck brace, and it was a little difficult, but I was better off being at the game than I would have been at home.
And that was you had technically what at that point in time? Herniated discs, or it was more significant than that?
It was I had tried to make a tackle of a tank in high school football, and I'd had that problem for a long time. And Dr. Dawson took care of me. I could have played linebacker the next week.
Two last things. One is 3,000 is a big number in baseball. Whether you're talking about Ripken or 3,000 hits or 3,000 strikeouts, it's a big number. So what does the number 3,000 in relation to baseball mean?
Well, I think of those things too, but I can't, there in no way can I compare my 3,000 to any of those people. I have so much respect for the guys that play this game. I know how hard it is from having a son that did this. I know how hard it is for them to get to the level they're at, and there's no way that I can compare my 3,000 consecutive games to anything that Cal Ripken did or anything that Adrian Beltre or anybody else that got 3,000 hits. But, I kind of joke, Evan, when I've had a couple of people mention Lou Gehrig and Cal Ripken to me, and, I didn't have to every game stand out at second base and have a 200-pound baseball player come running at me to slide into second. My biggest decision of the day is to figure out what I was going to eat in the press room before the game. So, it's a little bit easier to set up in my spot and announce players coming up to bat than it is to make it out on that field.
Hey, last thing is, you look at your title. Your title is officially Executive VP of Ballpark Entertainment Promotions and Productions. But if you were describing what it is your role with the Texas Rangers is to somebody, how would you describe it?
Man of the fans. The things that I do, as I told some people this week, my hope is a fan comes out here, enjoys a baseball game, and leaves here not ever knowing that I was in the ballpark or I had anything to do or take away from anything on the field, that they had a great time, but we just added to that experience of a big league ball game. And I know it maybe not as a big a deal as it used to be, but to me, it's still the most important thing that happens here tonight is what happens on the field. Not that I'll give you a tip here that Blue's going to win the dot race tonight or something like that, but the most important thing is the game on the field. It was to me when I was a kid. I enjoyed the hot dogs, and I used to love to watch the vendors pour the beer into the cup, and the scoreboard and the sights and the sounds. But again, watching the players on the field is the most important thing.
Great. Thank you, Chuck. Congratulations, man.
Thanks, Evan.
What else for Chuck? Alex?
Chuck, so previous to this year, you were handling sound, music, and PA. Now it's just PA. You brought in some reinforcements. How much of an adjustment has it been this year, just handling as far as PA goes?
I thought over the winter, I thought it was going to be tough, but I also think that my wife thought it was going to be tougher than I did, because all winter she said, "You're going to be all right? Are you going to be okay? You're going to want to play that music?" I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm good." And it hasn't been much of an adjustment for me. I made a kind of a deal with Groobs. My default at any ball game was always Motown. That if I couldn't find something to play real quick, I hit Motown, and Groobs has taken care of me with that. So as long as I get a Motown every now and then, a little Four Tops or Temptations in the ballpark, I'm fine. It really hasn't been a problem. And the other thing is I'm kind of separated. I really can't. If we had to do it, I could play music where I am. It's set up that way, but it hasn't crossed my mind. Groobs has done a great job. He's a great guy to work with, and I've enjoyed this year, and it's given me some time to actually watch and enjoy the game, and then keep track of what's going on the scoreboard and things like that. So I really haven't missed it. I thought it was going to be tougher, but it's been pretty easy.
Thanks, Chuck, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Hey, Chuck, back in your DJ days and Hee-Haw days and Grand Ole Opry days, who, was the coolest guy you met from that scene?
Probably a couple of them. One of them, Jeff, for the longest time, I had wanted to meet and interview Waylon Jennings, and our paths hadn't crossed until the last 3 or 4 years I was there. And once I had the chance to, when you get there, sometimes you may have had this feeling. Everybody on the screen may have had this feeling. There's some guys you might be a little bit worried about interviewing, and I had been told that Waylon didn't talk much, which is always you always worry about that. But once Waylon and I got together, it worked out pretty good, and he kept coming back, and he was there the last week I worked in Nashville. He came by to tell me goodbye, and that was pretty cool. But the other guy that was real cool was Marty Robbins, probably my closest friend in Nashville, and I have told this story before, but I think Marty probably played a role in me coming to Texas, and it's maybe it's not that pleasant a situation, but Marty passed away in December of 1982, and once Marty would come by and see me 2 to 3 times a week on my radio show because he couldn't sleep at night, and we became very close friends. And when he passed away, it's almost like I lost my fastball or I couldn't hit the curve or something because it just didn't feel right anymore. And when Larry Schmittou called me in December, I first turned him down, and then I got to thinking about it, and like I say, it didn't feel right that Marty wasn't coming by anymore, and I called Larry back in January and said, hey, I'm coming to Texas. So, but those are, Barbara Mandrell was cool. Any Friday, Saturday night at the Grand Ole Opry, there were a lot of cool people there.
Yeah, but, all right, thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
Anything else for Chuck? Levi?
Chuck, I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late. Did I hear correctly? You're working both the playoff series and the World Series. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm doing the Division Series, the NLCS, and the World Series.
Okay. Has it crossed your mind yet that there are going to be situations where one night you're calling Team A as the home team, and then the next night you're going to be calling Team B as the home team?
Yeah, that's crossed my mind, and Levi, I've kind of had that situation before. Back in the day, for about 4 or 5 years, I did the PA work for a all-star baseball video game for Nintendo and Xbox and all that stuff, and I would spend 5 days in either Austin or Cincinnati, and I would have to make an announcement for every possible weather situation, ballpark situation. I had to introduce the players as home guys and visiting players, and I had to introduce the players in a rally situation, and then in a non-rally situation. So I've kind of experienced some of that. So I had told, but not live and in person, but I told the MLB yesterday on a call that if Justin Turner's coming up with 2 men on and they're about to win the ball game, that it's going to sound like Justin Turner is a Texas Ranger. But and then I have also been told that they expect me to say, not it's baseball time in Texas, but if the Dodgers are here, I would say it's time for Dodger baseball. So that's pretty cool. But no, I'm prepared for that, and we're going to do all we can to make those teams feel at home.
How can I find the exact name of that video game that you were on?
It was All-Star Baseball.
All-Star Baseball.
Yeah, made by Acclaim. They went bankrupt. I think they still owe me and Derek Jeter some money, but
I'll find it. Thank you, Chuck.
thank you.
Anything else for Chuck? John Radigan.
Hey Chuck, so you talked about the coolest Grand Ole Opry stars that you introduced and interviewed and all that. Who's the coolest baseball player that's come through here? I mean, not necessarily your favorite, but the one that sort of exuded the most cool.
The most cool. Well, it's one of those people that that when John Blake told me I was going to have to do an interview with him, that made me a little bit nervous because I didn't know how much he would talk. Was Prince Fielder, but once I found out that we both had neck fusion surgery by the same doctor, he warmed up to me, I warmed up to him, and it turned out to be a great interview. But he was pretty cool. I always thought Rusty Greer was a cool guy. You know, I don't want to make Evan nervous, but Will Clark was a cool guy, and of course, and, you know, and then I've been with Nolan Ryan. To me, there's not too many more cool customers other than Nolan. Nolan and I have been all across the state of Texas. We've probably done 150 Q&As promoting the Rangers, promoting baseball. And, you know, John, we were in San Antonio one day. We were doing a Q&A for a Toro convention. And when Nolan and I walked out on the stage, you know, we were usually 45 minutes to an hour, would work pretty good. And when we walked up to the guy that was running the Q&A, he said, hey, I go, how much time are you going to need? He says, well, we need about 2 to 2.5 hours. And Nolan looked at me and said, whoa, can we do that? And I looked at him and I said, we can make it. And for 2.5 hours, Nolan and I did a Q&A with a bunch of lawnmower folks, and it worked out pretty good. But Nolan's one of the coolest guys I've ever seen.
Yeah, and really, probably people that don't know him might not realize he's a great storyteller, isn't he?
He's a great storyteller, and he may be, you know, you talk about doing a Q&A with somebody, you know, you only have to ask him a couple of questions, and he'll give you about an hour out of a couple of questions. And, you know, the great thing, and talk about being cool, no matter where we were, whether it was Midland or Tyler or wherever, we would walk out to the car, and we get in the car, getting ready. He says, I tell you what, Chuck, if you'll find the Dairy Queen, I'll buy the ice cream. And so we had a lot of fun on those trips.
That's awesome, Chuck. Congratulations, my friend.
Thanks, John.